Welcome to Radio Espial. This is our Insider edition. I think this is the first Insider edition for October. Now, Radio Espial Insider is a fortnightly digest of Radio Espial's concerns, interests and priorities in the form of current news on true crime cases. What we try to do is cover updates on cases, how they've been covered, be it through the media or appeals. Let's get straight into it. This week, the Mark Duffy case, and there has been a renewed appeal 3 years on for this case. Gardaí in Navan are renewing their appeal to the public for assistance on the third anniversary of missing person Mark Duffy, who was 43 years old when he went missing in Navan, County Meath on Monday the 3rd of October 2022. Now, Mark was seen at 10:50 a.m. when he went to the post office in the Johnstown shopping centre, Navan town. Later that day at approximately 2:45 p.m, Mark was last seen walking on Commons Road, Navan, in the direction of McDermott Villas, which leads into the Parnell Park. Mark is described as 5 foot 8 inches in height and of medium build with brown hair and blue eyes. When last seen, Mark was wearing dark clothing with a cream hoodie underneath. Anyone with information that can assist Gardaí in locating Mark is asked to contact Navan Garda Station. That's 046 local number 907 9930. The Garda confidential line 1800 666 111. Just something on Mark's case background. Now, again, this is a case that we covered I think more than a year and a half ago. There is a full timeline, as with any case we mention in Insider. Description, cards, if you want to go into the full case. With Insider, we're not here to delve into the full case and rehash it again. On Mark's case, and just a brief background on it, Mark Duffy, age 43, went missing from his home in Navan, County Meath, Ireland on the 3rd of October 2022. That morning, he left his home to collect a social welfare payment at a local post office in the Johnstown shopping centre. He was picked up on CCTV footage shortly before 11 a.m. at the post office, and later that day at a Centra supermarket on the Commons Road just before 3 p.m, and appeared to be crossing a road and heading back in the direction of Parnell Park, where he lived. Now, Mark never arrived back home that day. He was due to start a new job as a construction site foreman. He was formally reported missing without contact with his family on the 13th of October 2022. Now, extensive searches were carried out by the Gardaí, Meath Civil Defence, and many volunteer searches in the area and wider areas, including waterways, and for weeks and through much of the rest of 2022. No trace of Mark's whereabouts were ever found. No one has ever come forward with credible information about what happened to Mark on the 3rd of October or thereafter. Mark's mobile phone, which he was carrying with him on the day of his disappearance, stopped pinging local communication towers on October the 4th, leading Gardaí investigators into his missing person case to believe that he had not left the immediate area of his home, whatever occurred on that day. Now, as I say, Mark has been missing for over 3 years. It is a missing person case that has yielded very few substantive leads. Having said that, we know there are people in the local community who know what happened to Mark on that day. Now, Mark himself. Mark was born on December the 1st, 1978. He was the eldest of 3 children born to Fergus and Martina Duffy and their children, Mark, Leah and Stephen, who were raised in Parnell Park, Navan, County Meath. From an early age, Mark was always outgoing, a larger-than-life character, active in GAA sports, and developed a wide circle of friends as he grew older after schooling. The family were well known in the area. In fact, his grandfather, Andrew Brennan, had been a former mayor of Navan from 2004. Over years, as he grew up, friends would nickname him Rubber, and would often affectionately refer to him by this instead of his first name. Outside of work, Mark was active socially, never far from a spot of DJing or a karaoke scene locally. He made friends easily, and to family and friends, he took life in its stride and rarely appeared to be stressed. including at the time of his disappearance. He was the father of 2 school-going children at the time and doted on them. He had their names tattooed on both his arms, and his family world revolved around them. At the time of his disappearance, Mark was dealing with a knee injury which limited some of his activities, and he walked with a noticeable limp, something that would become very apparent on the last CCTV images of him in the Navan area. On the 16th of December 2021, Mark's father, Fergus, passed away unexpectedly. Mark took on most of the arrangements for his mum and family. As the eldest sibling, he very much assumed the lead role in the family and was considered a rock and dependable kind of person who never lost his perspective on life and lovable sense of humour. Now, as I say, last year marked the 3rd anniversary of his disappearance. There are people in Parnell Park and the McDermott estate who know what happened to Mark and where his body is. You know who you are. You need to step forward, and the people protecting and around you need to step forward and tell us, and tell the Gardaí what really happened to Mark Duffy on the day of his disappearance. We're now going to go to an appeal. You're going to hear from Martina Leah, his sister, and going to hear a little bit more about the case. Again, if you really want to get into this case and the timeline of it, card, description, and you can go into the full timeline of the case. And then after that, we're going to move into our anniversaries.
October 2022. Since then, there has been no trace of Mark, and his family now fear the worst.
It's the worst nightmare. I can't sleep, I can't eat, I can't focus. My firstborn, I was 18 when I had him. He just was such a lovable child.
He was the joker. He's the fun one. Mark was always the type of person that the glass it's always half full.
At a party, he'd be the first fella there to get up and sing a song, do the karaoke, always having the laugh and the banter.
And the dream is just a vessel.
Mark has 2 children, boy and a girl. They were his life. He was an absolute fantastic father, regardless of what he was doing in life or where life took him. His children were his priority. They were his everything. It's not a day goes by that we don't talk about him. It's affected every member of our family, from the eldest to right down to the youngest. It's had an impact on all of us.
Early on in the investigation, we established Mark's last known movements on CCTV in and around the Navan Town area on the 3rd of October 2022. At approximately 10 to 11 on the morning, Mark is seen entering Johnstown Shopping Centre. He walks into the post office and he is again seen on CCTV. He then leaves the post office and he walks out and he can be seen waiting around the car park area. Mark was wearing dark clothing. He had a white or grey hoodie and he was walking with a noticeable limp due to a knee injury. At 2:45, Mark walked off the Commons Road. He continued past McDermott Villas into Parnell Park, located here in Navan Town. This is the last known sighting of Mark.
My head just didn't work. I couldn't comprehend it, so I couldn't. I thought, oh sure, maybe he met up with one of the lads or something and he's gone off now, and sure he'll be back in a couple of days, But the longer it went on, the more worrying it got.
At the start, I believed we were going to find him. There was no doubt in my mind. He was somewhere and we were going to find him. It was just a matter of how and where. But as the searches went on and the inquiries went on, and there was just nothing. There was no evidence, no sign of him.
This has been an extensive investigation with multiple searches in the local area to include national checks at ports and airports. There has been no activity on Mark's bank account since he was reported as a missing person.
So 3 years later, nearly, we still have nothing from him. No phone call, no messages, nothing, no trace of him anywhere. It's literally like he just disappeared into thin air.
Like, somebody out there has to know where he is. And I just ask them, beg them, please. Our family has been through torture. If you know something, just even go confidential and let us know. So I want my son back so I can give him a proper burial and put him in along with his dad. Because at this stage, I think Mark is dead.
Well, Detective Sergeant Clarissa Byrne joins us now. Clarissa, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Carla.
Now, as we can see, it's very distressing for Mark's family. As we heard there, they believe that Mark has died. What do you and your team of investigators believe?
After extensive inquiries in this investigation, Mark Duffy has not been located to date, Carla. And given the passage of time in this investigation, the investigation team certainly have heightened concerns in relation to Mark's whereabouts and also his well-being.
All right, so bring us back to Mark's last known movements then.
So early on in this case, Carla, extensive CCTV was harvested and Mark's movements are well established. He's seen on camera here entering Johnstown Shopping Centre. He is observed in the post office at 10 to 11 in the morning. And he spends a period of time there and he leaves out through the front door of Johnstown Shopping Centre. He's seen in the car park here. He is then sighted on the Commons Road walking into McDermott's Villas at 2:45 in the afternoon, which leads into Parnell Park area of Navan Town. And this is the last known sighting of Mark Duffy on CCTV on that date.
All right, so what areas are you focusing on now in particular?
Our investigation is focused on the McDermott's Villas housing estate in Navan Town. This is a housing estate which passes into Parnell Park housing estate, and we're also looking to speak to anybody in the Johnstown area who would have seen Mark in the post office or in that area over the course of the morning or indeed the afternoon.
With this appeal going out tonight, you and your team, you've been canvassing Navan Town yesterday and today. What are you hoping to hear from people?
That's right, Carla. In the past 48 hours, we've been on the ground re-canvassing house-to-house inquiries with residents located in McDermott's Villas and the Parnell Park, and we are really encouraging anybody with information who would have seen Mark to please come forward. We do believe there are people out there who have information to help us progress this case, and we are urging anybody to come forward now and provide us with that information.
All right, so just remind us then of Mark's description.
Mark was 5'8" in height. He was of medium build. He had blue eyes with brown hair. He had a number of tattoos inside his forearms. And on the day, he was wearing dark clothing with a zipped up jacket with a cream hoodie underneath it.
Well, hopefully somebody watching will be able to progress this case. Clarissa, thanks so much.
Thank you, Carla.
Okay, tough case there, Mick, with Mark Duffy. I mean, he's it's one of those, once again, an expression we've heard plenty of times there, and the family said at this time, the dogs on the street know what happened here.
Yeah. And I thought it was very significant that this appeal included that very particular mention, not just of Parnell. We've heard an awful lot about Parnell Park, but that very particular, that McDermott estate, and I think that's where their focus now is.
Yeah, so I mean, again, hopefully something gives here, because that's the real killer. When again, it seems to be an open secret what happened to him here. So hopefully something gives, and they get answers for the family, because that family's had huge tragedy. His father died sometime beforehand, and then the mother of his kids, then she died suddenly in her sleep then sometime after he went missing as well. So his kids there have been through a horrendous time, as have his mother and siblings. So just hope they get answers there on Mark Duffy.
And in fairness to Martina and Leah, for the past week they have been very, very intensive on the media, and we'd like to think what we're doing this afternoon, this evening, is going to also help to raise the profile of that case once again, to give it another push, so we can just get over that line and the Gardaí can then actually act.
Yeah, and just as well, folks, the feature we did on last year's Missing Persons Day, Leah Duffy spoke at that as well. So if you check out that feature, you can see.
We'll put it in the description as well. Yeah.
So that's it. So here's hoping for Mark Duffy and the family get answers there, Mick.
Yeah. As you've seen from our lead appeal this month, our thoughts are with Mark Duffy's family, who disappeared on October the 3rd, 2022, and also we're thinking and remembering James Party Grealish, who disappeared without a trace from Breda, Netherlands, leaving behind only questions and heartbreak for his family in Ireland. James Party Grealish, JP as he was known, he was an Irish carpenter. He'd moved across chasing work opportunities in Europe, but on October the 23rd, 2008, at age 24, he simply disappeared, with no confirmed sightings, no known enemies, and no explanation. His case remains a haunting mystery, closed by Dutch authorities but never forgotten. It certainly hasn't been forgotten by us. Again, please, people, links, cards that appear. We're not here to go through the full case. If you want to know more about those cases, what we're here for, anniversaries and remembering those people. Now, another case we will consider later this month, one of the most high profile cases ever, that of schoolboy Philip Cairns on October the 23rd, 1986, as he walked back home to school after lunch. We expect a great deal of media coverage later this month on the case, in what will be the 39th anniversary of his disappearance. Hopefully most of the conspiracy theories won't be rehashed, and a little more common sense prevails in that investigation. But really, whether we ever see a conclusion, it's hard to know. Columba McVEIGH, October the 31st, 1975, one of the so-called disappeared, and another family seeking the discovery and return of his body. This is a case we recently featured in a Radio Espial special, and we know there have been active searches in recent months. If you want to know, as I say, more about these cases, please see the description and the video cards. Yeah, so back to you, Brian. Two. What we got there? We got three other cases there. JP went missing in the Netherlands 2008. Then Philip Cairns case, of course, that everybody, doesn't matter what age you are now, you know about it. And of course, the disappeared Columba McVEIGh. Again, your thoughts, Brian?
Yeah, JP Grealish, young fella abroad there. What should have been an adventure for him there, and that went horribly wrong there, and then all the the bureaucracy off the back of that. So that's a very tough case, and for his family. I remember seeing the interviews with his sisters and so on there. So again, hopefully something comes up on this, because it's I think it's pretty clear he didn't leave the Netherlands because there was the Amber Alert on his passport. So it's he didn't just head off or jump on a boat or jump on a plane somewhere. He didn't leave the Netherlands from that piece of
Breda, where he was.
Yeah. So very, very tragic. And the Philip Cairns case, then, that's one that we grew up with, really. I was a kid when that happened. You were a teenager, Mick, and it's I think this one is really, I remember, in school, like, they were praying every day for Philip Cairns to see what happened. And again, this is another classic, like, somebody knows something, and I won't say it's an open secret what happened, but I think there's certainly strong lines of inquiry there, and somebody knows something there. So various different theories, but it'd be great just for his mother is alive. She's quite elderly now. His father sadly passed away some years ago, and his siblings are there as well. So big family. So really hoping something gives for him now 39 years ago. I mean, considering he was 13 at the time, there you go. That's 3 times his lifespan has passed since
1986. And for me, it was kind of like I said, you had just finished primary school. I was kind of just finishing secondary school, just finished at 85, 86, gone into the workplace.
Into primary school,
And it was, for me, I kind of felt, for parents then, it was that defining moment when suddenly parents started to think more seriously about letting their primary school kids just walk to school or coming back from. That was suddenly when, that was a moment things actually changed and parents started to think a little bit more about the safety of their kids coming and going to school.
Yeah, very, very sad. Awful. Well, people use the old cliche about the loss of innocence there, like, but that was definitely one of those big things. And I think some people's behaviour since, I mean, they used to say that people used to, you know, some guys who got arrested abroad gave that name and that kind of thing, and, you know, it's just horrible, like, you know. So, but anyway, look, we just hope, we hope to get an answer for him there and for his family, because I think this case is solvable.
Yeah,
you know,
it should be.
But I'm not a Garda, or a detective, but from what I've heard, you know, I think surely this one can be solved at some point there soon. Then we've Columba McVEIGH then finally, and, you know, 50 years ago, I mean, he was only a teenager at the time. Another horrific case, one so-called disappeared, and again, you know, what's left of his family, we hope they get an answer and recover his remains there as well.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay, Brian, we're gonna move into the community section now. We got a very considerable feedback on Alpho O'Reilly. Again, people, we're not here to completely do summaries and case backgrounds of cards will appear here. Brian, an awful lot of feedback on this case.
Good bit of feedback. We'll start actually with the missing and murder, the forgotten cases, which was part 3 of the case.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll just start with that. So that was part 3 in the series we did about the so-called mythical vanishing triangle. You know, part 3 of that series looked at some of the forgotten cases, debunking the mythical vanishing triangle and all the media hype associated with it. And we focused on cases considered peripheral to that. There was a longer list of a lot of those cases, and then we looked at the 6 cases usually considered in relation to this imaginary construction. So we Mary Kilmartin, Tricia Doherty, Antoinette Smith, Eva Brennan, Claire Boylan, and Melody Keenan, and all of those cases, there's timelines on Radio Espial with more detail there. We were looking at it through that perspective there. Now, we had a good comment there from somebody called I Love Donny Kay. Now, I think that's in relation to one of the minor characters in The Sopranos was called Donny Kay. Yeah. Donny Kay was a guy who there was one of the New York gangsters thought he was laughing at a joke about his wife and followed him out of the bar and gave him an awful thumping. Johnny Sack did, and Donny Kay was that guy. So that was just one of the minor characters of Sopranos. I presume that's where this guy got the name. But anyway, a good comment from Donny Kay on this video, and check that out, folks. That'd be underneath Missing and Murder, the Forgotten Cases, and that was a great diagram of the missing. Should be a middle page spread every year on all newspapers and other publications as a reminder for everyone. Should also be on TVs and social media every year, and it would serve as a marker of respect to the missing. Their souls will forever wander the earth for the truth to be told. So thanks very much. I love Donny Kay. In particular, there it would serve as a mark of respect to the missing, and that's exactly what we strive for in there. So you know, agreed. Should be a middle page spread on all the newspapers there, and I think particularly around the National Missing Persons Day, there seems to be the silence is deafening from a lot of those newspapers, and it'd be nice if they actually did do something like that. Big broadsheet spread showing that would be great. So Thanks again. I love Donny K. Anything else you want to say on this bit before we go on to Alpho, Mick?
No. Let's move on to Alpho now, because there's quite a lot of comments to get through there on that case.
So we had a lot of positive comments there. We had one from Kadiro V Bilgen, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He or she said, "Great work, Brian and Mick. Another brilliant episode. Thanks for speaking up for the voiceless again. Unfortunately, Alpho seems to be just another victim of the times in Ireland. You'd think he disappeared in 1936 by the amount of coverage and searching that was done at the time. Rest his soul." And again, thanks for speaking up for the voiceless. Yet again, that's precisely what we aim to do here. A big part of what we aim to do here. So much appreciated on your comment there, Kadiro V Bilgen. Okay, with some other positive comments there as well. Little Bear Paws, thank you, Brian and Mick. Great show and good detail. Agree with you 100% in your passion. So thanks very much. Your Little Bear Paws, steady supporter of our channel there. So much appreciated. Also, we had a good comment there from
Mary.
She's made some positive comments there as well on the channel. So we move on now to the filling station there. Now, the filling station had there was queries on whether filling stations were open around that time, and I distinctly remember being in college somewhere in '97, and it was kind of most of our contemporaries had cleared off to America on the J1, and there was only two or three of us were at home. And I remember distinctly walking home from the pub with a buddy of mine on a few occasions, and there used to be a filling station open on Western Road there, and there was various ones around Cork at that time. So would have been there that time and before, and in Dublin as well. So they would have been open there at that time. All right, it was just kind of starting out that time. I remember the Coliseum in Cork. It was kind of a arcade kind of place with bowling and pool, and that started open 24, and you started getting the 24-hour McDonald's and so on. But the filling stations were the early ones to start that, and you didn't walk in. There was a window, a hatch, and
and that kind of eastern run in Ireland from Dublin through Wicklow, Wexford, 24-hour filling stations were starting to regularly appear. You didn't have to go any more than 50 kilometres, and you would come across a late night, at least until 2 and 3 in the morning. But many that would be opening, as you say, just with the hatch, self-service, but you got to go to the counter and pay for your fuel. And of course, as that part of Ireland, as well as Cork, Donegal, Belfast, was developing in logistically, and truck drivers needed it because freight was starting to regularly move through those areas on a regular basis from the ferries, Rosslare, Cork,
Dublin Port,
Dublin Port,
Yeah, and I suppose coming up from the north, from Belfast as well. So, and then that led this was before, they started getting the motorways going then a few years later. And then you had the start of those the rest areas and that.
Bypassing the smaller towns that you would normally have run through.
Yeah, so that's where that all came from. So no, so that was the case then. It was way back, but they were opening late overnight at that point. All right. Now, just wanted to touch on something else there as well. Okay, we had a few comments on the car in the water. Okay, now I did raise this with Tosh Lavery, and he said straight away he's in the water. And furthermore, he said that if he went into the sea, as opposed to one of the inland waterways, if he went into the sea, then it would be more likely that it would have been found, because he wouldn't have gone much further than the shore there. So he was the opinion he's in the water, but not in the sea or near the shore. So there's various comments on that. We're not going to read all of them out, but thanks for making the comments there, folks, those who did. Now, the next thing we want to look at, again, we just want to reiterate the statement of the guy in the shop in Ashford was that Alpho O'Reilly had asked how to get to Dublin, and then when he told him, he drove off in the opposite direction towards Wexford.
The confused state, kind of.
Confused state, yeah. And remember now, this is the N11, Dublin, Wexford. Things are changed now since, but that went through Ashford Village at the time. When it came out of Ashford, then it forks off, and it's still heading south. Now, we're just being clear on this now. We two comments there, Moira, Nick, and Odd One Out. Odd One Out mentions, realistically, he could have been coming from anywhere. If he was in the early stages of dementia, he could have left his house to go to a local shop for ciggies, got confused, and ended up driving aimlessly for hours before pulling in for fuel and directions. It's a sad story when you include the state of the house and the fact that no one missed him for a while. Well done on the new improved terrorisation skills, Brian, and great coverage on this case by both of you. So thanks, Odd One Out, for the for your kind words there, and what you've said there about the trip there. So that's possible as well. So again, that he was on the way back. That's we're firm in the belief of that, because he did ask how to get back to Dublin. We also then wanted to touch on the people around him, because I think this is an important thing there. I mean, I think, you know, if we know he spoke to neighbours. There was various neighbours saw him, and you know, we know there was concerns for his mental health at the time as well. At least people thought he was being forgetful, and there was concerns. I mean, I don't think anybody really said it out loud, but there was concerns that about I think dementia, really, even if people didn't say it out loud. And I think the people around him as well, perhaps he did get lose contact with people, but I think it's that can happen, and particularly after he retired as well, that, you know, people you might see on a daily basis, there's all great plans to keep in contact, and then
suddenly you don't see them for months or weeks.
Yeah, and it can be tricky in that respect. So I think we had one comment there from MD Subculture. He's another staunch supporter of the case there, Mick D. He said, "Hi, Mick Rooney and McVEIGH, an outstanding detailed presentation on Alpho O'Reilly as a person, his career and life. In a nutshell, in total agreement with you lads. Find the car, you find Alpho, or at least what happened to him. And those around Alpho at the time of his disappearance, Gardaí, RTE, otherwise should be ashamed of themselves for creating a deafening silence put on this case. Unfortunately, many cases in Ireland are the same, with the attitude of let's go home at 4 p.m, 5 a.m, and not to follow evidence." So I think there was that's it. It was curious about what happened. I think we need to put a bit of perspective here again. I think some people didn't like him at all, as Bridget McLaughlin hinted at, and I think part of this is where you have talent, there's all the jealousy and resentment.
This talent, there's ego, there's resentment, as you say, jealousy, and I'd look, you know, it's always difficult when you have somebody like Alpho who, you know, is the victim of whatever circumstance, and one doesn't want to be, you know, critical, particularly if he was mentally in a reduced state. But at the same time, we also have to be we have to be straight and blunt, you know, in a sense that, you know, clearly, you know, everybody didn't necessarily think he was the bee's knees, you know. And
he was a boss, basically. When you think about it,
he was a boss.
He was a very senior guy.
Know.
He came in his head in his late 30s there, in the early 60s. I'm sure that probably threw a few noses out of joint. And I think as well, just to think like this, these were, you know, he mightn't necessarily have been that friendly with all the staff there either. I mean, particularly younger people. I mean, you know, he was probably Mr. O'Reilly to a lot of the younger people in there, and there would have been a distance there. I mean, and the fact that he worked his way up from nothing, did not come from a wealthy background. He studied his way through college and was working through that, and, you know, was self-taught and learned it all the way himself. So I don't think he'd have cared too much for anybody if anybody was swinging the lead in the place either, you know. So I think that he might have rubbed a few people up the wrong way with that, but you know, that's understandable. That happens everywhere with, you know, in organisations. You're always going to have resentment and noses out of joint and jealousy and so on. So, but in this case, the collective RTE indifference is shocking, to be honest. You know, it really is. Yeah, you know?
and I think if I might get back to a comment there,
Moira Nick there,
where she mentions, you know, about, you know, details in that Bridget McLaughlin piece about the car being damaged, and we know that car was a relatively new car, and it being bashed up, damaged, dents in it, which also suggests there was an awful lot going kind of on in Alpho's ability to actually be in control, and, you know, what possibly might have actually happened.
Yeah, and a very old character from the sound of it as well, because like, you know, you can see he was a fastidious dresser.
Yeah.
You know, he was obviously very organised and capable in the job he did, because that you know, required a lot of meticulous work. So anyway, yeah, there was that account there. It was about, you know, some of the tips that he'd had in the previous times from one Leonard Silk, and also there was comments she quotes from one Marion Lynch there as well.
Yeah.
So that was that. Now, I think what would be interesting to know, I know we couldn't get hold of it, but it would be interesting to know what was on in Leinster that night or those couple of nights. Because, I mean, again, remember, we put this, there's no official narrative on this.
Yeah.
You know, the web pages, you know, it might as well...
Might as well not exist,
yeah,
frankly.
It's very, very poor. No specifics. There's no date. Doesn't even mention the Ashford visit. There's no... they say the 2nd of January, you know, it's the 4th of January.
And I think somebody else, I can't remember, in a comment there I saw during the week, somebody also mentioned, you know, the landlines, how much detail was looked at the landlines and the phone calls he would have been making in the few days before. We know that.
We know that.
And we know the damn number of that phone line. Was that checked? Who was he communicating? You know, what plans or details had he made around that time? You know, again, but we know nothing of what expertise the Gardaí put into actually that. If there was a willingness to actually, again, it's like what you said in the Philip Cairns. This was a case that should have been solved.
Yeah,
you know, or at least to a conclusion, and say, we've searched everywhere. His car is there. It's somewhere in a lake. It's somewhere in a river. You know, you know, he hasn't gone anywhere else, and yet we're left with the question: why he and that car, that Colt Mitsubishi, hasn't been found?
Yeah, exactly. It's so I think whether it make any difference or not, it would be interesting to know what happened in Leinster the night of the 3rd into the 4th, and you know, to know what was going on that time, public or private. Any public functions or private functions that he could have been invited to. And remember, again, folks, he was returning to Dublin. Now, Wexford had very heavy rain for 20 plus days in January '96 as well. So that ran most of the month there as well, just to bear that in mind. But it would be interesting to know what was going on there. And again, you know, not everybody liked him from the sound of it. We, you know, don't know the details of all of that, but I think that doesn't mean that they were involved in his disappearance. It just means that, you know, this kind of contributed to some of the indifference, I think, and, you know, he mightn't necessarily be close to all the people. As I said, you know, he could have been as a boss there. You know, he could well have probably was Mr. O'Reilly to a lot of people there as well. You know, they wouldn't exactly be popping their head around the door to fancy Point Alpho. You know, it would have been, there would have been a bit of distance there. He would have had his own friends there. So anyway, I think that's I
think that again, everybody, thank you for your feedback on that case. Terrific. Thank you very much, and that's what we appreciate, and that's what we're going to feature an awful lot more.
Sorry, just one more there, Mick. I just want to read one more comment. We've she's a regular subscriber since the start there, Mick, Mary, and an amazing life Alpho had. I agree, Brian's done a great job in this story. I feel your emotions, Mick. Alpho's life needs to be celebrated, and his passing combed out in details. Shame on RT and the police. I did not know him as I lived outside Ireland a long time now. He is someone I would like to have known. Rest in peace, Alpho. I think that's a lovely comment.
And that's a lovely way to finish our conclusions on the Alpho case.
So thanks, Mary, for that.
Yeah, thank you, Mary, and thank you all to the feedback you give us.
Yeah.
Okay, coming up on Radio Espial Timelines. Now, Timelines. At the moment, we're working on Charles Brooke Pickard on Friday. Just a little detail on that case. I'm very quickly going to read through this so you have just an idea of what would be coming up. I don't know when we're going to get this timeline to you. I was hoping next week. It could be a while. There's an awful lot in this case as well. But Charles Brooke Pickard, on Friday the 26th of April 1991, Charles Brooke Pickard was abducted and taken away in his van by a number of males from the White Strand at Castle Cove, County Kerry, and has not been seen since. On the 16th of May 1991, his van, a Navy Ford Transit, was found burned out in Shron O'Loughlin forest in the townland of Derrinagrina near Waterville, County Kerry, 27 miles from where he was abducted. Gardaí have continued to renew appeals over many years for information about his abduction from members of the public, which they may have had in relation to this matter. It is over 30 years since Charles Brooke Pickard was last seen bundled into his van near Castle Cove, County Kerry. He was 43 years of age at the time, and his wife Penny and 4 young children were left behind. Gardaí continue to insist in their appeals that there are people who may not have been in a position to assist the investigation years ago, but with the passage of time their circumstances may have changed. Relationships, friendships, associations and loyalties may have changed, and people may be in a better position now. Again, any information on that case, forwarding to Gardaí at Killarney Garda Station 064 663 1221 or any Garda station. Now also, this is a little bit further out, and this is a case that myself and Brian have wanted to look at for quite a while, and this is the Eliza Lamb feature. We haven't yet decided whether we're going to do this as a feature or whether we're going to do it as a timeline. Now again, very quickly, in February 2013, the body of 21-year-old Canadian student Eliza Lamb was found inside a rooftop water tank at the Stay on Main Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. Eliza had been missing for nearly 3 weeks after last being seen on January the 31st. Guests had complained about low water pressure and discoloured water, leading a maintenance worker to discover a body in the hotel's cistern that was located on the roof. Before her body was found, police had released elevator surveillance footage showing Eliza behaving strangely, pressing multiple buttons, stepping in and out of the lift and appearing to hide from someone unseen. The unsettling video went viral, fueling widespread speculation and online theories about what could have happened to her. An autopsy later determined Eliza's death was an accidental drowning, though her bipolar disorder and missed medication doses were cited as contributing factors. Still, many found the explanation unsatisfactory, pointing to bizarre elevator footage and eerie coincidences, such as the similarities to the 2005 horror film Dark Water. Lawsuits from hotel guests and Lamb's own family followed, but were eventually dismissed. The tragic mystery of Eliza Lamb has since become one of the internet's most infamous true crime cases, including documentaries, online investigations and endless debate about what truly happened to Eliza Lamb.
Yeah.
Brian?
So I think, two fascinating cases, but very, very tragic. I mean, Charles Picard, I mean, this kind of, again, those places, like you used the expression before, I mean, Castle Cove, County Kerry isn't exactly a sprawling metropolis. Like, it's, this is, very remote areas there, like, with sparsely populated. So, I think that one's very much solvable for a guy to be disappeared like that, easily. So I hope to get answers on that. And then the Eliza Lamb case, again, very, very tragic. I mean, she, had a few things going on with her there, and again, this should have been an adventure for her there, and turned into a horrible end for her, into her young life, like, So and
what I find fascinating about that case, particularly as we focus so much in the media, and I think, Brian, this is very much down your avenue as well. It's the way this case, when it shouldn't have, grew several heads and got ridiculously out of there were ghost hunters out there. There were paranormal experts jumping on this case.
All these headbangers, like, I did forget, like, there's this young lady there who was creative and everything. Like, I mean, she was, and
she had her own blog channel, and was using it. She had visions of getting into fashion and getting into blog travel and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and she did. She obviously needed a bit of help, and was in a spot of bother, and she needed help there. So, and did, so it's very, very tragic, and hopefully they get answers there on what exactly happened to her there, and likewise for Charles Brooke Picard. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for joining us on this edition of Radio Espial Insider. We do have upcoming timelines in the next week or two. At this moment, we're not in a position to give our next timeline broadcast date. It might be next week, but it's very tight if we can get there with the Pickard case. They require considerable time, effort and research to produce and broadcast. So look, until then, God bless and take care to everyone. Brian, last words.
Thanks, folks. All the best.